Hello, welcome to Casual Veteran Gamer, and in this Baldur's Gate 3 video today we are looking at some more simple weapons and rating them and seeing how good they are. The first one on display here today is the club. So the club does 1d4 bludgeoning damage and gives you concussive smash, and since we're here, it is light, so it is dual wieldable with another light weapon. It is one-handed, however it is not thrown. The club, or any class that isn't a druid, is fairly disappointing in all honesty. And before I go and give the rating for the club, I do want to point out that looking at simple weapons, and I've got the next one ready here with a ranger, is the reason they're simple weapons is that damage is low and they only get one weapon ability. We should expect simple weapons not to have a good rating. Anyway, so let's have a look at the club in a tiny bit more detail. So it gets concussive smash, which we looked at in the previous video. So very quickly, gives the target disadvantage on wisdom saving throws. They can't take reactions and they lose the dexterity bonus to their armor class. That's all great, but we have to remember these are once per short rest. Let's go ahead and try that. It's not going to work out very well. Oh well, at least it hit. Now, because of the low damage and the fact it can't be thrown and it's not finesse, so you have to be depending on strength for the club, I'm going to have to give it a 4 out of 10 unless you are a druid with shillelagh. This druid does not have shillelagh, which is a bit of a shame. If you've got a druid with shillelagh, then actually I think you could easily give this like an 8 out of 10 because it allows you to wield a shield and do decent damage, because the damage on shillelagh is 1d8 plus your wisdom modifier. But outside of that but outside of that single case, the club is just, no one's going to wield a club. It's just not good. So next up is the Javelin, which does 1d6 piercing damage, so a step up from the club. Isn't finesse, just like the club, but can be thrown. Unfortunately, it can't be dual wielded, even though it's a one-handed weapon. It doesn't have the light property. It'd be nice if it could be dual wielded, but it can't be. But it's a bit better than the club. It's got higher damage. It's got the ability to be thrown, so you can do its proper damage when you throw it. And it has a different weapon ability. It's got piercing strike. Again, we saw this in the previous video. So if a target has gaping wounds, then all attacks made against the creature do an additional 2 piercing damage. This is good if you are purposefully setting this up. Missed anyway. If you're purposefully setting this up, because then maybe I could have had the conjured spider attack it and do an extra 2 damage, and then could have had my sorcerer hit it with one of his attacks, but I think it does have to be an attack roll, not just something like Cloud of Daggers, to do an extra 2 damage, and then maybe the warlock and the druid could have hit it as well, although it would lose gaping wounds by its next turn. So what am I going to give the poor Javelin? Well, it is a bit better than the club. The weapon ability isn't really much better. I probably would prefer concussive smash, but it does have a higher damage die, and it can be thrown. So you can have these in your inventory if you want, especially good for barbarians. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. It's a bit better than the club, but it's still a simple weapon. It's still got low damage, and it still depends on strength. Next up is the Mace. Still a simple weapon. Its damage die is 1d6. It does bludgeoning damage. And of the 3 types of physical damage, bludgeoning is probably the best because skeletons do have vulnerability against bludgeoning damage. And I don't think any other creature, at least at the moment, has vulnerability against either slashing or piercing. So you're probably going to get a tiny bit more damage from bludgeoning weapons, but not most of the time. And essentially, a mace is just a metal club. It's got 1d6 damage instead of 1d4, and it's got the same weapon ability, concussive smash, so you're gonna get the same use out of it. I've already used concussive smash just now, so I can't use it again, and it depends on strength. It isn't light, so it can't be dual wielded, whereas clubs can be, but I don't know anyone who would really want to dual wield clubs, unless you're a ranger dual wielding salamis perhaps. So I'm gonna give the Mace a 5 out of 10 simply because it's got a higher damage die. The final weapon for today, for this video, will be the torch. It is a melee weapon, and it does 1d4 bludgeoning plus 1d4 fire damage, but importantly also provides a light source. It is light, so it can be dual wielded. You can see I'm dual wielding it here, and I took a potion of speed so I can actually equip both torches within a single turn. And it has concussive smash, just like the club, just like the mace. It's a good weapon ability to have, and it's a bit strong. I've cast fairy fire, so I've actually got a chance of hitting Grucko here. Because of the potion of haste, I've got 2 actions and a bonus action, so I am going to use concussive smash on my first attack. Of course it misses. Thanks. And then I could cast Hunter's Mark or reapply it, but why would I do that when my torch does more damage? So I'm just going to turn on dual wielding and just attack twice. Now, I've got Colossus Slayer, which kind of really helps. And I missed the second attack, but I would say that the torch is kind of easily the best simple weapon. It can be dual wielded. The only main downside to it is it isn't finesse, so characters with high dexterity won't really gain from using torches. However, this damage is too high for a simple weapon. I wouldn't agree that torches themselves probably are martial weapons as such. Like, it's probably not too difficult to use them. Don't know, I've never really wielded weapons before. However, the damage is much higher than any other simple weapon. In my backpack, I'll get to it in another video, but the Great Club here has 1d8 damage. It isn't the same as 2d4, but it's kind of on par with 2d4, but it's two-handed. It requires 2 hands to wield this. But here we get 2d4 damage twice, potentially twice per turn if with just 1 action, 1 bonus action. If I gave the ranger here the Helmet of Grit, he could have an extra bonus action, so he could have 2 offhand attacks. And in fact, this 2d4 is on par with one-handed martial weapons. I don't know if I've got one in my inventory actually. Here, this will do. Right, battle axe. If it's wielded one-handed, it does 1d8. Again, not exactly the same as 2d4, but similar enough that we can compare them. So I'm going to have to give the torch quite a high value. It's probably going to be at least an 8, if not 9 out of 10. And just as a simple weapon, it's almost too good. I don't think it should have the 1d4 fire damage. Maybe just +1 fire damage, or +1d2 fire damage perhaps. The fact is, having a torch is like having 2 clubs in one hand. It has 2, which would be a torch is 2d4 damage. A club is 1d4 damage. Why would you wield a club when you can have a torch? And they use the same proficiency. We can see down here, uses the club's proficiency. Now, I've never made a build using torches, and I've seen a build on the forums. Cannot take any credit for it, but makes use of actually a ranger, which I've got here, I think Colossus Slayer, and dual wielding torches just because no other weapon in the whole game, even for martial weapons, has 2d4 damage and is dual wieldable. I don't know if they'll ever change it, but yeah, if you want a good simple weapon, go for torches. And as I said earlier, provides a light source for people like, I think this guy's a human in fact, he benefits from having a torch. So let me know what you think of these weapons and what you think of my ratings, because again, you might disagree with me. Agree? Thank you very much for watching. If you've made it this far, please do consider subscribing, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.